Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for joining me with Art Ancestors and Art. My name is Gemma Benton, and I have with me the lovely Kathleen Zajac. And Kathleen is in, Kathleen, where are you at?
Hello everyone, I'm in Europe, in Poland. This is the country next to Germany. So it's evening, my time right now.
Beautiful. So Kathleen is a spiritual mentor and a master healer for visionary leaders, high impact coaches, and pioneers into the new earth paradigm. I love that, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. She helps successful businesswomen uncover and develop their sacred spiritual gifts and incorporate them in their services and offer deep soul-to-soul transformation for their clients. Kathleen has been using meditation since she was 12 and believes that the world of energy is as complex and organized as the visible material world. What a beautiful introduction, Kathleen. I love that you share with people about those unseen energy worlds. Tell us more about what you do and what you're involved with right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this lovely invitation. So yes, I'm a healer first and foremost, and lately I've moved into teaching energy healing, which turned out to be a great adventure and a great challenge at the same time. And yes, I do believe that we are all naturally born with this beautiful gift, that we are naturally gifted to see the energy. It just happens through the process of schooling, process of training, of upbringing, that we forget. We forget how it feels to see the energy, to feel the energy, how it feels to connect with spiritual beings who are all the time around us. And then we wake up one day, and for me, that day was in Ireland when I was working as an accountant and I was doing full-time PhD. And you get this calling, it's time to move into spirituality, and you really can no longer postpone it because your life is just not in the right place. We fill up our life with so many things, that seem on the surface to be important, but then it turns out that actually the life purpose, and what I call it the sacred soul mission, is somewhere else. It's about uncovering your inner truth, what is really inside you. And I do believe that actually what you do, Gemma, about in this beautiful challenge, in the process of communicating with ancestors, healing the ancestral patterns, is one of the huge parts on our journey into ourselves, into uncovering our inner truth about ourselves, about who we truly are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for for all that you do. As I'm sitting here thinking about who you are and the rich conversations we've had. You were sharing just recently, like the ancestral healing is coming up more and more as a theme in your work, and I think that has historical purposes. But part of why I'm doing this Ancestors and Art Challenge is that I believe that it's the call that we're all experiencing right now. And you and I have talked a lot about how that call is increasing for people in these times. So I'm wondering, so the prompt today is about what do your ancestors believe in? And I'm wondering, in your work and in your journeys there, and doing the healing work that you do, what you're seeing with the way that our ancestors' beliefs shaped them and how that's relevant to us today.
Actually, well, to tell you the truth, my latest clients, I think with all of them, we had to go deep and do the ancestral healing. So it seems to be a prevailing pattern right now, which makes perfect sense. I think about taking into account that 2017, this is the year of new openings. We entered into the new cycle of humanity consciousness. So a lot of clearing the space has to be done before we can move forward. And Of course, as you mentioned, in my case, because I'm located in Poland, I'm Polish, and a second world war took place here. Concentration camps were built here. This is where most of Holocaust took place on the territory of Poland, which was occupied by Nazi Germany. So there are so many things, and even last week I had, well, to give you an example of how it works. I was working with a wonderful lady, and she got stuck, which I think is quite common for women in my geographic area, that she cannot basically earn money because it's not a woman's task. Like only men do that. Like only men are supposed to take care of the house, to take care of finances. And when we got into that, even her tone of voice changed, and she suddenly started speaking with the tone of her grandfather. That was the time when she was not aware of it yet. In a really rude, like, if you think of that rude masculine macho who says like, who the hell are you, woman, to do that and earn money? And it turned out that actually when we started going deeper and deeper, that her grandfather did something terrible during the wartime. He basically, okay, well, we were talking about ancestral healing and I'm talking about the wartime, so, don't expect nothing nice. He basically raped and killed a Jewish woman who was a mother. So those ancestral patterns, we inherit them. They are in our bloodstream. We inherit them, we bring them in our DNA. Of course, the story I'm sharing with you right now is quite strong, but the interesting thing is that very often when it comes to ancestral healing and ancestral patterns, we forget that there are two sides of the coin. Like somehow we first and foremost focus on ancestral traumas, family traumas, pain, suffering, and we forget the other side of the coin, which is ancestral wisdom, which is all this huge reservoir of wisdom, of experience, of skills, of beautiful, amazing moments that were gathered and collected through generations. So that always fascinates me, Gemma, that we somehow are, I don't want to say programmed, but we have a tendency to see only one side of the coin, and we forget about this beauty and this richness, because it's so rich, it's so magnificent, this ancestral wisdom.
Absolutely. So I feel like that the wisdom is embedded in the trauma somehow. Like that, I don't know the science behind that, but spiritually what I see often is that, as someone moves through that, they, like it is only in moving through that trauma that they garner that wisdom. So, but you have to go through it. And I think part of the beauty in these times is that we can, like we understand trauma, like we understand in a way that we've never done before. So, like for your client, the beauty of that is that she can, in a loving, compassionate perspective, understand that terrible things happen in war. It brings out the worst in everyone. And that, where maybe her grandfather wasn't a violent person before, it triggered that inside of him. And maybe he was, but the reality is it kind of fosters this violent environment and this violent, and I look at it as a spirit. So I think it actually is like, like if I look at what the old people talk about when we invite that spirit in of war and violence and abuse, of hatred, then it kind of takes seed in us, like physically, and then it gets expressed through violent acts like rape and killing and brutality. So to me, like the beautiful part is how we like excavate that through sharing these stories and being present with each other. So thank you for doing that phenomenal work there in Poland, and I know you do international work all over the world via Skype and other techno
Yeah.
opportunities. So thank you for doing that. So tell me about your ancestors and how their belief, to me, I imagine at the age of 12 in Poland to be doing meditation, that comes from someplace. And that comes from, of course, your parents and your grandparents and the way that their lives were shaped. How did you get started with meditation at 12?
That was. Oh, but I would like to come back to that story I just shared with you before. So,
Yeah.
the end of the story was that actually grandfather was asking to call his family, so the family of my client, for forgiveness, and we conducted a beautiful ceremony of forgiveness, and this pattern was released. So all that pattern of anger, of frustration, it was sent back to the source. And so, just to answer to your question, so how it happened? Basically, it happened, I used to think that it happened by an accident. I was 12-year-old girl, and I found an old book of yoga in my grandfather's library. And the book was printed in 1962. It was all dusty and grayish. But I somehow felt, I don't, it just happened. I started reading the book and I started meditating for some unexplainable reason, not having much clue of what I was doing. And that's how it all started. And when I look back at my story and my family lineage, women in my family, they all are gifted. Not all of them give permission for their gifts to fully blossom and to use them. My grandmother, she has prophetic dreams. She knows what is happening in the family. You don't need to tell her anything. But for the last 2 years, I've been having this feeling that actually it goes much deeper than that, because this is, it's like this territory of Poland, which is like the Slavic territory, is filled with ancient wisdom. And whenever I travel around the country, I can see sacred mounds. When you see the energy, it becomes easier. So I can see guards, I can see protectors, I can see the ancient wisdom which is kept there until it will be the best time to reveal it. So this ancient ancestral wisdom is circulating somewhere around me all the time. It's just I was not aware of it for a very long time. But that's the healer's journey. That's exactly how it looks like.
So that's part of what you actually do now, is to help women see the energy. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Can you share more about that?
Of course. So this is my recent calling. This is my calling for this year, and I presume for the whole 9 years humanity cycle in humanity consciousness. Because if you don't know, 2017 is the opening of the 9-year cycle. We are entering into the new paradigm of living, thinking, and feeling. And my mission for this beautiful time frame is to guide people, to show them the energetic dimension of this reality, to help them embrace fully their spiritual gifts with no shame, no fear of being rejected or being called woo or whatever. It's not woo. Energy is science. It's very and it's easily explainable. And my most recent program is actually about helping successful women entrepreneurs who are already leaders in their industry, who are already leaders in their life, to take the leap of faith, to take the next step, and fully embrace their spiritual gifts so they can become enlightened leaders, so they can become spiritual leaders for their communities.
Absolutely. So what excites me about what we're doing, Kathleen, is I think that as you know, people, many people are receiving the call to do, to usher in this new earth. And I know that, you and I have had a conversation about like we're sharing, well, we're actually, like to me, I'm like, we're paving the way. We are, you know, setting the groundwork for that new earth. And to me, it's both an honor and a privilege to be part of that conversation. And I love that you're doing that. How can
Thank you.
Thank you. So how can people how can people I guess what's one thing that you can give our listeners so that they begin doing that? How can they begin incorporating and doing more of this in their life? How can they begin seeing the energy so they can harness that intuition and like really understand that because I think so often, like in our mainstream society, we hear that it's crazy making or that, we're crazy or it's an illusion. And the reality is, I guess, my reality is that all that other noise is the illusion. And that as we move through our ancestors' stories, we are healing that. And, like, again, gathering up that wisdom, and so that we can do that work, so that we can do that leading and usher in that new paradigm, that new way of, and I say it's a new old way of, I think we're going back, to these places of wholeness. So
yes, I absolutely agree with coming back.
Yeah, so tell us how we can do that, and then tell us how we can get involved in your program.
So how can you do that? Actually, I created a roadmap. I called it 6 key mindset of spiritual and energetically conscious person. And this is a short roadmap. I'm going to share it with you in a second. To set the proper mindset for you, because the main problem, like the main obstacle in front of you, like behind, not in front of you, right, between you and your spiritual gifts is actually your mindset. So if you assume you cannot see something, in that you will not see it. This will not happen. So the key is to open yourself up, trust yourself, that whatever you sense, it exists. It's as simple as that and as difficult as that. Whatever you sense, it exists. It exists. And energy has its consciousness. Energy is pure consciousness, actually. And energy responds to you anytime. But my favorite part of those key mindset I created is that there are no limits to this reality, only the ones you choose. So, in other words, if you assume that something does not exist, it will not become visible to you. If you give yourself permission in your mind, you can see the energy, that you can see spiritual beings or angels or archangels or ancestors. You will start seeing them step by step, gradually. They will be coming to you because they will be responding. Remember, energy is pure consciousness. They will be responding to your invitation.
Beautiful, Kathleen. Thank you for that. It is, and thank you for giving us permission to do that, because I think that's so often, what the real issue is. Like, we need someone to say that it's okay, so we need that permission. So thank you for doing that. So I think the best way to do that is if you can share a link as part of this video, and we'll leave that in the comments, in the notations or the comment area for the video, and then people can go directly to your site and learn more about how you're doing that and your steps, that roadmap that you were talking about.
Of course, I warmly invite you. My website is my sacred space. So basically, it's a consciously designed energetic container. And I invite you to enter this sacred space. Definitely.
And you can find Kathleen also. She does a lot of live Facebook Live programs or offerings, and you can find her on Facebook as well. And I'll leave the link there as well. Kathleen, thank you for sharing this time with us. I'm going to leave all this, and we're going to end the broadcast. And if you'll stay on for just a few minutes, then we'll just connect and get all the link information, and so our viewers can take part of that. Thank you again for doing what you do and being who you are in the world and shining so ever brightly and leading us into this new Earth paradigm.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this beautiful invitation, and I send you so much love and light. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for listening. And you could be anywhere doing anything, and you chose to be here. And for that, I thank you. The ancestors thank you. We all thank you. Oya Nina and all my relations.